So the question we have now is, how do I stop scope creep from destroying my margins? That's a good question too. I actually had a friend try to build a tool to help agencies with that, and they didn't take it too seriously, and yeah, it didn't work well. But anyways, I'm Tom. This is Aaron. We've ran multiple agencies, had hundreds of employees between us. I don't know, probably close to 1,000 clients. So normally we get questions like this from the clients. We charge for it. We answer them on the phone. But instead of doing calls all the time, we're just going to send people to these type of videos. So we're recording this. How do I stop scope creep from destroying my margins? You want to kick this one off?
Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is you need to have clarity in your own mind as to what your service actually is. And I know that sounds really simple, but the number of service providers and agency owners I've met who have actually no idea what it is that they do for clients, like in detail, is a little disturbing. So write a service spec document in advance, right? What is part of your services? What is not? So when a client comes to you and says, hey, can you do this for me? You'd be like, yes, I can, or no, I can't. That is out of scope. We can do it, but we have to charge you for it. So I know, Tom, you have a similar thing about.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about what you just said.
Yeah. So I know you have a thing. It's like you call it productization, right? So tell us more about that.
It's like semi-productization, right? Because look, every client wants something custom. They want to feel special. And you don't want to tell them that you're not special. So what you kind of need to do is create components of your service that you kind of do for everybody that you can just quickly put together, right? So it's like, oh, okay, well, you have this problem, so we're going to take these 7 components, which we already know how much they're going to cost, how much they take, who's doing them, and we put them together, and the person's like, oh, this is perfect for me. And it is, but it's based on like Lego blocks in a way, right? Like you're not using anything but these Lego blocks that you have already predefined. And then you list those out in the work agreement, and it's super easy for the project manager, whoever else, to just go through and be like, okay, well, block 1, 2, 5, and 7 for this client goes to these people, takes this much, right? So this is why when you said like people don't know what they're fulfilling, and then in my head it's like, well, how do you create the blocks if you don't know how you're fulfilling?
They just say, I do media buying, and then the client comes with them and says, can you do this? And they're like, yeah, I can do that, actually.
Okay, so this goes into this second part, which I was thinking of, right? Like sometimes your team or your project manager will say yes to things, right?
Because they don't know.
Well, there's 2 different things about this. The team might not know, but the project manager might have the wrong incentive from you. So you might be tracking the project manager and evaluating them by, I want you to keep the clients with us as long as possible. And they're looking like, okay, if I say yes, the client will stay longer.
Yeah. So that their metric is retention.
Yeah. Right. But because that's what a lot of agencies want to do. But then, sometimes you got to have a talk with the project manager. Be like, retention, yes, but we can't be doing
the
things
boundaries.
We don't do. And so, yeah.
Within the boundaries of our services.
But again, I think that's a big problem too. I think, like if an agency owner doesn't have these Lego blocks in place and they just tell the project manager, just, make sure we get as much money from this client as possible. Well.
So what you call Lego blocks is what I call a service spec document, right? That's a listing of all your Lego blocks. And then each individual client gets a combination of Lego blocks.
Basically, yeah. But you need to know what those are. That's why I'm still thinking of like, how can you run an agency not knowing what your blocks are?
Trust me, there are a number of people, I'm sure you've seen it too, where they actually have never sat down and listed out their Lego blocks.
So
they're vibe feeling their way through it, man.
Like I can sort of see this in the beginning of an agency because you're kind of throwing stuff at the wall and be like, I want to figure out what I do well and what makes sense and just keep that and productize it. But anyone running it for a while, like that just introduces like so many issues in my head.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, which I think is one of your other points about improving systems.
Well, right?
Yeah. It gets pushed to the bottom because it's not an urgent thing at the agency at any given time.
So I was just talking with a buddy of mine yesterday, right? And we were talking about marketing. And I said, most of marketing will be solved by AI and workflows in 2026. And then he didn't really get it because his marketing was always like spray and pray in a way, you know? And I'm like, well, the only thing you need to do as an owner is run experiments on marketing. And the moment those marketing things that you're doing are repeatable and work, you just process them out and have AI do it. If it's repeatable and it works, you shouldn't be doing it. AI can lift that stuff now. It can think if you tell it how to think. So a lot of companies, they will have one or two repeatable marketing things that they do for years. And for them, AI will solve this in 2026. If they know how to make the workflows out of it properly, like you don't really need to touch that anymore. It will just continue doing it for you. Anything else on scope creep from you, or are we done?
The other thing I would say is if you are an agency or a service provider who is not standardized or not productized, as in like you work individual project by project, there are a subset of agencies that do that, right? For better or for worse. What I would do is you need to get really good at project-based estimation. So work out how many hours, how many days, how many weeks it's going to take to fulfill for this particular client. And then I would multiply that by 1.5 for your actual time estimate, because that will fill in the gaps of scope creep, typically speaking.
Yeah, that would make sense.
All right, that is it for this one. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you in the next one.